Frugal living in retirement. Nobody plans for that to be their story, but here's the truth. A lot of us are headed there. And I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm saying it because it's real, and because pretending otherwise doesn't help anybody. Now here's what nobody tells you. Retiring on less doesn't mean retiring badly, but only if you actually know what you're doing. Because there is a massive difference between being broke in retirement and living lean in retirement. One feels like failure, the other is strategy. And once you understand that difference, really understand it, everything changes. That's what today is all about. Not a list of sad sacrifices, a real strategy. So let's get into it. Here's what we are covering today. First, we're going to reframe what frugal retirement actually means, because I think most people have it completely wrong, and that misconception is actually getting in their way. Then, we're going to tackle the 3 expenses that eat late starters alive, and I mean really dig into them with specific actionable moves. Then, the everyday stuff, food, entertainment, subscriptions, and how to cut without feeling like you're punishing yourself. And then the part that I am most excited about, income stretchers, and the benefits that most people in our situation don't even know exist. Free money, basically, that's sitting on the table unclaimed. And by the end of this video, you're going to have a real playbook, something you can actually use. Let's go. And hey, if you're new here, real quick, this channel, the Late Starter Money Guide, is built specifically for late starters, people who got serious about retirement later than maybe they should have, and are now doing the honest, unglamorous work of catching up. No shame about that, no judgment, just clear, practical conversations about what actually to do. I'm a late starter too, and if that's what you've been looking for, hit subscribe and tap that bell. New video every week, always worth your time. Okay, let's get back to the video. Let's start talking about the word frugal, because I think it has a serious PR problem. When most people hear frugal, they hear deprivation, they hear sacrifice, they hear, I can't do the things I want anymore. And honestly, I get it. That's the way frugality gets talked about online. Coupons and cold showers and eating rice and beans every night. And if that's what frugal retirement meant, I wouldn't blame anybody for wanting nothing to do with it. But here's the thing. That's not what frugal actually means. Not the version that works anyway. Real frugality, the kind that actually makes your life better, is not about spending less on everything. It's about spending intentionally on what genuinely matters to you and ruthlessly eliminating what doesn't. That's it. That's the whole thing. Let me give you an example. Maybe eating out at nice restaurants is something you genuinely love. It brings you joy. It's social. It's part of who you are. Okay, keep it. Don't touch it. But maybe you're also paying for 4 streaming services and you couldn't name half the shows on 2 of them. Cut those. You won't miss them for a single day. The difference between broke and lean is control. Broke is reactive. You're running out of money and panicking. Lean is intentional. You know exactly where every dollar is going and you choose that. One feels like drowning, the other actually feels kind of powerful. And for late starters specifically, here's something important to understand. Living lean in early retirement isn't necessarily forever. For a lot of us, it's a bridge strategy. It buys your savings more time to grow. It lets you delay Social Security a few more years so your monthly check is bigger. It gives you breathing room. It's not a destination, it's the path to the destination. Now let's talk about where the real money is bleeding out, because if you don't get these 3 expenses under control, nothing else we talk about today is going to move the needle. For most retirees, 3 categories of spending make up somewhere between 60 and 70% of their entire budget: housing, healthcare, and transportation. If you can get control of these 3, you have won most of the battle. So let's go through them one by one. Housing first, because this is the biggest lever you have. I want to speak to 2 groups here: my homeowners and my renters, because the conversation is different for each of you. If you own a home, I know this is a hard conversation. Your home has memories, it has meaning. And I'm not going to tell you that doesn't matter, but I am going to ask you to look at the math honestly. If you're in a 3-bedroom house and your kids are gone, you are paying to heat, cool, insure, maintain, and pay property tax on rooms you are not using. Downsizing, even just from a 3-bedroom to a 2-bedroom, can free up thousands of dollars a year. Some people find that moving to a lower cost of living area, even if it's just a smaller nearby city, cuts their housing costs by 30 to 40% while barely changing their quality of life. And if you want to get creative, renting out a room, a basement apartment, or even a space on Airbnb occasionally can add meaningful income without requiring you to move at all. If you're a renter, I just want to say first, you are not behind. Renting in retirement has real advantages that don't get talked about often enough. No maintenance headaches, no surprise $8,000 roof replacements, no property taxes. Someone else handles the broken water heater at 2 a.m., and that is genuinely valuable, especially as you get older and these things get harder to deal with. The challenge with renting, of course, is that you don't control your housing costs the way a homeowner does. Rent increases are real, and they can squeeze a fixed income fast. So if you're a renter, your lever is flexibility. You can move. You can move to a smaller unit, a less expensive neighborhood, a lower cost of living city without the friction of selling a house. That mobility actually is a financial superpower if you're willing to use it. All right, now, healthcare, and this is the one that blindsides people. Healthcare is typically the second biggest expense in retirement, and it's the one most people are at least prepared for, so let's actually get really practical here. If you retire before 65 and aren't on Medicare yet, you have a few bridge options. First, check if you qualify for a spouse's, if you're married, employer plan. Second, look at ACA marketplace plans at healthcare.gov. Depending on your income and early retirement, you may qualify for significant subsidies that make coverage much more affordable than you'd expect. Third, Medicaid. If your income is low enough, you may qualify outright. Don't assume you don't. Check. Once you're on Medicare at 65, understand what it actually covers because the gaps are real. Original Medicare does not cover dental, vision, or hearing. It does not cap your out-of-pocket costs on hospital stays. This is why Medigap supplemental insurance exists. For late starters with limited savings, that monthly Medigap premium can be worth every penny to protect you from a single catastrophic medical bill wiping out years of catch-up savings. Now, for reducing day-to-day healthcare costs specifically, generic prescriptions are almost always chemically identical to brand-name drugs and can cost a fraction of the price. Always ask your doctor for the generic. GoodRx is a free app that finds you the lowest prescription price near you and has saved some people hundreds of dollars a month. I am not sponsored by them, that's just the honest truth. And community health centers, also called FQHCs, offer sliding scale fees based on income for doctor's visits, dental care, and more. Find your nearest one at findahealthcenter.hrsa.gov. And negotiating medical bills directly with providers is more normal than people realize. Hospitals have financial assistance programs and will often accept less than the billed amount if you ask. And hey, the worst they can say is no. Next up is transportation, the one that people forget to look at. The average American spends over $12,000 a year on vehicle ownership. Let's talk about this honestly regarding your situation. If you have 2 cars, the question worth asking is whether you genuinely need both. In retirement, with no commute, 2 cars can often mean one sitting in the driveway most of the day. Going from 2 cars to 1 eliminates insurance, registration, maintenance, and depreciation on an entire vehicle. And that's potentially thousands of dollars a year back in your pocket. If you own 1 car, the question isn't about going car-free necessarily. It's about whether the car you have is costing you more than it should. If you're still making car payments on something expensive, it's worth asking honestly, could a reliable used car with no payments serve you just as well? A $3,000 to $5,000 used Honda or Toyota with low miles will get you to the grocery store and a doctor just as effectively as a $35,000 car, and the difference in monthly costs is significant on a fixed income. The goal isn't to give up your car. The goal is to make sure your car isn't quietly eating your retirement. And regardless of what you drive, rideshare, public transit, and even e-bikes are increasingly viable options for supplementing or replacing car trips depending on where you live. Worth knowing what's available in your area. Okay, those are the big three, but now let's talk about the everyday stuff, because this is where most frugal retirement advice gets it completely wrong, and I want to do it differently. Most frugal living video content at this point gives you a list. Stop buying coffee out, pack a lunch, cancel Netflix, and look, those things aren't wrong, but they're also kind of insulting, right? You're an adult. You know what a coffee costs. That's not the insight you need. So here's how I actually think about the everyday spending in retirement. Food is your biggest daily variable, and it's also where frugality can genuinely make your life better, not worse. Cooking at home is not a punishment. For a lot of retirees, it becomes something they actually enjoy, especially when they finally have the time to do it right. And the savings are real. The average American household spends over $3,000 a year eating out. Even cutting that by half is meaningful money. Store brands, meal planning, buying in bulk, these aren't revolutionary ideas, but they compound over time in a real way. Also, and I cannot believe how many people don't know this, most grocery chains, restaurants, and even some national retailers offer senior discounts. They are almost never advertised. You have to ask. Make it a habit to ask everywhere. And let's talk about entertainment. Entertainment does not have to cost money in retirement. Your local library, and I mean this, is one of the most underutilized financial tools available to retirees. Free books, free audiobooks, free movies, free streaming services through apps like Libby and Canopy, free programs and classes. Go to your library, check it out. They got great stuff. And the National Parks Senior Pass is $80 one time and gives you a lifetime access to every national park in the country. $80 once. That is a remarkable deal that barely anybody over 62 knows about. All right, so run a subscription audit right now. Seriously, pause this video and do it if you want. Go through your bank and your credit card statements and highlight every recurring subscription charge. Most people find 2 or 3 things they completely forgot they were paying for. That's free money back in your pocket immediately. And the last thing I'll say here on this topic is the 24-hour rule. Before any non-essential purchase, wait 24 hours. That's it. You will be amazed how often you actually don't want that thing anymore. It creates just enough friction to stop impulse spending cold. Okay, now here's the part I've been building towards, because cutting expenses only gets you so far. What if there's money you're already entitled to that you're not collecting? Let's talk about that. This next section might be the most valuable thing I've put on my channel so far, because what I'm about to describe is real money, government programs and benefits that exist specifically for people in our situation, and they go massively underutilized because nobody talks about that. First one up, SNAP benefits for seniors. Most people think of SNAP as a program for young families, but millions of older Americans on fixed incomes qualify and never apply. The income thresholds are higher than you think. It is worth 10 minutes of your time to check your eligibility at benefits.gov. Second up is LIHEAP, the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program. If you're in a fixed income and struggling with utility bills, this federal program exists to help. Again, massively underutilized. Look it up. Next up, Extra Help, also called the Low Income Subsidy for Medicare Prescription Costs. If you're on Medicare Part D and your income is limited, this program can dramatically reduce what you pay for prescriptions. We're talking potentially saving hundreds of dollars a month on medication. Go check your eligibility. Next up, property tax exemptions for seniors. This one varies by state and by county, but in many places, once you hit a certain age or income level, you qualify for a significant reduction in your property taxes. Call your county tax assessor's office and ask. Most people never do. The ones who do tend to save real money. And then there's the Social Security bridge strategy. If you can live lean in early retirement using your savings, you can afford to delay claiming Social Security, which increases your monthly benefit by roughly 8% for every year you wait past your full retirement age. Living frugally in your early retirement years is literally buying you a bigger paycheck for the rest of your life. That reframe alone should change how you think about this. Finally, part-time work. I want to say this carefully because I know it can feel like admitting defeat. It is not defeat. Working part-time in retirement, even 10 to 15 hours a week doing something you find meaningful, does three things simultaneously. It brings income, it reduces how much you need to draw from savings, and the research consistently shows it's good for your mental and physical health. It is a tool. Use it without shame. Okay, I want to bring this all together now because there's one final piece I think makes everything we've talked about today actually stick long-term, and it has nothing to do with money. Here's something the research on retirement happiness consistently shows, and I find this truly fascinating. Once your basic needs are covered, more money has very little impact on how happy you actually are in retirement. Very little. What actually drives happiness in retirement? Relationships, purpose, health, autonomy, the feeling that you are in control of your own time and life. None of these things require a lot of money. In fact, some of the most contented retirees I've ever read about or spoken to are people who live simply and intentionally, not because they had to, but because they figured out what actually matters to them. For me, spending a quality afternoon hiking with my daughter and having her catch me up on all of her wild adventures is worth more than a million vacations to Tuscany. Now, for late starters, living lean is often a necessity at first, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But here's the reframe that I want to leave you with. Being a late starter forced you to get serious and intentional about your money in a way a lot of people with comfortable nest eggs never had to. You are building a retirement that is more thought through, more deliberate, and more yours than anybody who just got to coast on autopilot. That is not a consolidation prize. That is truly something. And enough, real enough, the kind that actually feels like enough, it's probably closer than you think. Here's what I want you to take away from today. Frugal retirement is not about giving up the things you love. It's about being ruthlessly clear on what you actually love, eliminating the rest, making sure you're getting every dollar you're entitled to, and building a life that is genuinely sustainable and genuinely yours. You have more levers than you think. You have more options than you think. And you are not as far behind as you think. If this channel is speaking to you, if this is the kind of honest, judgment-free conversation you've been looking for, subscribe if you haven't already. This is what we do here every single week. And your next step? Go watch this video right here called The High End Retirement. You don't need $1 million, you need this number. Because once you have the mindset and the budget strategy, the next thing you need is a clear action plan. This video does exactly that. It's right here. Go watch it. I'm Frank. Thanks for spending time with me today, and I'll see you in the next one.